Jack Benny program. With Jack's special guest, George Burns. So long, Rochester. See you soon. Now, Jack, we've got to get on with rehearsal. Jack, what are you doing? We haven't finished rehearsal yet.
I'm going to play golf. I got a date with George Burns.
Jack, which is more important? Your show or playing golf with George Burns?
Playing golf with George Burns. That's more important. We've been friends for years. And you know, there's an old saying, you can't buy friendship.
Well, that ought to make you happy.
That'll make you happy. Let's see if I got everything here. Gloves, balls, tees. Let's see it there. Scorecard. There's a pencil, an eraser.
Jack, look, I still say you got a lot of nerve leaving before we finish rehearsal.
Look, I'm not going to let my pal George Burns down. Let's see, there are my woods, my iron, my putter. Oh, there's my shotgun.
Shotgun?
Yeah. The way I've been playing lately, you know, I run into some pretty big games. So long, Don. See you afterwards.
Hello, Jack Benny's office. Well, I'm sorry he isn't in just now. May I take a message? Oh, magazines. Well, no, he already subscribes to that one. He subscribes to that one, too. He also subscribes to that one. No, that one he sells. In fact, last month, he won a bicycle. Hello, Jack Benny's office. Oh, hello, Mr. Zanuck. Well, he isn't here just now. No, he's out playing golf, and I'm afraid he won't be back for a couple of hours. Well, I'll tell him when he comes in. Goodbye. Well, Mr. Benny, you're back early.
You're darn right I'm back early. And it's the last time I ever play golf with George Burns. Well, I don't want to discuss it now. Were there any messages for me?
Yes, and Mr. Zanuck called.
Daryl Zanuck? Gee, what did he want?
He didn't get his magazine this month.
He'll get it. I don't know why he's so impatient. Gee, the calendar girl this month is nothing.
You certainly are in a bad mood.
Well, it's that golf game of mine.
But, Mr. Benny, golf is a sport. You're supposed to go out on the course for fun, relaxation.
Not when you're playing for money. I can't get over that George Burns. He makes me so mad.
Well, why don't you forget about your golf game? Maybe you'd feel better if you answered your fan mail.
Okay.
There's a letter here from a lady from Baltimore. She says, "Dear Mr. Benny, I've admired you for many years, and I would like an autographed picture of you. Please sign it Blue Eyes."
All right, Blue Eyes. Love Blue Eyes.
All right. Now, Mr. Benny, if you'll just sign these contracts.
What about my fan mail?
This was it.
Well, that certainly made me feel good. Look, hold the contracts till tomorrow, and then we'll go over them.
All right.
4. George.
Okay, you still mad?
I wasn't mad. And what are you doing here?
You forgot your golf club.
All right, so I was mad.
Look, don't be so upset. You've lost before.
I don't care about losing. It's just that you're such a poor sport. Look, Miss Gordon, you know what he did? Here we are on the 3rd green. I swear, I'm this close to the hole. This close. And he wouldn't concede the putt. Anybody would have conceded that putt.
All right, so I didn't concede the putt. So what?
So it cost me 4 more strokes. I'll tell you something right to your face, George. You spoiled my whole day.
Look, Jack, you're no pleasure to play with either. I was plenty embarrassed when you got into that big argument with the man on the other fairway about whose ball it was.
It was my ball.
He said it was his ball.
I said it was mine, and you had no reason to agree with him.
I had to. Father Donovan is an honest man.
All right, so I made a mistake. I mean, but you're getting so technical lately. I mean, on the 5th hole, you penalized me 2 strokes.
You're not supposed to tee up the ball in the middle of the fairway.
I didn't tee up the ball.
Jack, that rubber mushroom that you carry around doesn't fool anybody.
I don't know. I was never so insulted in all my life. And I'll tell you something, George. I'll never talk to you again as long as I live. Miss Gordon, I'll see you in the morning.
If that's the way you feel, you can cancel my magazine.
This has nothing to do with business.
I knew that would bring him back.
Oh, gosh, I've never seen him so mad.
Yeah, he'll get over it.
Oh, I guess you're right. You and Mr. Benny have been friends for so many years.
We've been friends for over 40 years. Oh, I forgot he tells everybody he's 39. I met him when he was 39.
Oh, tell me, Mr. Burns, I've always been curious. How did you first meet Mr. Benny?
Well, that's many years ago. I was in Chicago, and my partner, Billy Lorraine, quit the act, and things were kind of rough. And I remember I just had enough money to stop in this little boarding house that catered to theatrical people.
All right, it ain't the Waldorf, but then you ain't the Prince of Wales.
I look more like the Prince of Wales than this looks like the Waldorf.
Good for the rug.
You missed it.
What are you, Weisenheimer? This is the closet. And this is the bed. You pull it down this way.
What about a bath?
I certainly would advise it.
You ought to be in show business. You're funny.
Well, do you want the room or don't you?
I'll take it. How much is it?
$3 a week in advance.
In advance? Why?
Because the guy who had the room last time disappeared and didn't pay his rent.
Okay. What's that?
Well, that's the guy who lives next door.
$3?
$2.50. $1.75.
Okay. Give you $1.75, but I want the cooking privileges like he's got.
What makes you think he's got cooking privileges?
Isn't he plucking a chicken?
I see what you mean.
Here's your money.
Oh, incidentally, I have a very cute daughter, and she wants to get into show business.
All landladies have daughters that want to get into show business.
I was going to change it, but it dried. She really is very... She's very attractive.
No, this is murder. She's right. This ain't the Waldorf. Use a little air. Ah. Sure build close in this city. On a clear day, you can see the cement between the bricks. Quiet. Quiet. Come in.
Are these your shoes?
Yeah, thanks a lot, fella, for bringing them back. I really didn't mean to. These aren't my shoes.
Well, you can't blame me for trying. Say, what happened to that other fella that used to live here that had this room before, Mr. Thornberry?
That's what the landlady would like to know. She said he disappeared without paying his rent.
Oh. Well, say, I've seen you on the stage. Aren't you George Burns?
I'm not the Prince of Wales.
I thought so. Gosh, you got a nicer room than mine.
It only looks that way because the towel is dry.
Oh. Say, I'm Jack Benny. I'm in show business too, you know.
Oh?
Yes, I'm a musician. I guess you heard.
I heard. What instrument do you play?
I think everybody asks me that. Well, anyway, I'm sure glad you're going to be a neighbor of mine.
Well, I'm sorry about throwing my shoes at you. I'm a little irritable today. You see, my partner, Billy Lorraine, quit the act, and we're supposed to open tomorrow night at the Bijou Burlesque Theater. And, how would you like to be in burlesque?
Burlesque?
Yeah.
Gee, if my father ever saw me do a fan dance, he'd beat the tar out of me.
Yeah, I mean comedy. My partner quit. Maybe you can take his place.
Well, I don't know anything about comedy. You see, I just play the violin.
Well, stick with me and I'll teach you.
Gee, would you?
Of course. We'll rehearse all day tomorrow. We'll open tomorrow night. And right now, I'd like to get some sleep. Will you help me pull down the bed?
Oh, sure.
There we are.
Mr. Thornberry.
Another half hour and I would have suffocated.
The landlady thought you were gone.
Yeah, I will be in a minute. Listen, take my advice. You two sleep together. The spring in this bed is murder.
Where have you been?
Did you and Mr. Benny really do an act together?
Oh, yes. Early the next morning, we got to work and we rehearsed all day. And that night, we made our first appearance as a team at the Bijou Burlesque Theater.
Make me lose those Yankee Doodle. You can have my one Yankee Doodle blues.
What do you hear from home?
Well, I got a letter from my niece, Jean.
Oh, how is she?
Oh, she's fine. You know, she told me now that it's spring again. See, they're putting a little circus in the backyard like we used to do when we were kids.
Oh?
You see? And my uncle Otis, he was always the strong man, see? So he used to come out in a leopard skin and put some nails in his mouth and twist them around his teeth until they bend.
That's quite a trick.
Yeah, but he looked pretty ridiculous walking around with a lot of bent teeth.
Well, they'd come in handy if he happened to get a crooked ear of corn.
Yeah. And you know, my Aunt Gertrude, she was a snake charmer.
Gertrude? The one who's so nearsighted?
Yeah, you see, she used to take a little snake and put it in a basket.
Yeah.
See? And then blow on a flute until the snake's head came up.
I see.
And what do you think happened one Saturday?
She put the flute in the basket and blew on the snake.
No, George. It wasn't a real snake. It was in a few worms tied together.
Oh, I see.
Wait, what did I tell you?
We got the hook, but we had to stay in show business. We had 100 cards printed, Burns and Benny. But we didn't give up. 2 nights later, we did the act in Schenectady.
Oh, it wasn't a real snake. It was just a few worms tied together.
What was your part in the circus?
I was a line tamer.
You were a line tamer?
Yeah, but I used to use our house cat.
Oh?
You see? And I taught her all kinds of tricks. How to get up on a pedestal and roll over and play dead.
That's a pretty smart cat.
Yeah, but when it came in front of an audience, she forgot all her tricks, and all she did was have kittens.
After that, we had to lay off for a few days. Jack got a rash. Who knew he was allergic to tomatoes? But I still had faith in the act. I figured they'd love us in Altoona.
And he twists them between his teeth until they bend.
That's quite a trick.
I know, but he looked pretty ridiculous walking around with a mouth full of bent teeth.
We caught an early train for our next stop, Gloversville. That was quite a trick.
Yeah, but he looked pretty ridiculous walking around with a mouth full of... What is this? We just want to finish our act.
They didn't even wait for the punchline. We thought we figured out what was wrong with the act. We were much too sophisticated. But we changed that when we opened in Ronkonkoma. You say your Uncle Otis was a strong man? You say your Uncle Otis was the strong man?
Yeah, he used to come out in a leopard skin and put some big nails in his mouth and twisted them in his teeth until they bent.
That's quite a trick.
Yeah, but he looked ridiculous walking around with a mouth full of bent teeth.
3 months later, downhearted, we arrived back in Chicago.
All right, I know it ain't the Waldorf, but then again, you ain't Calvin Coolidge.
Even the landlady had sense enough to change her act.
Oh, incidentally, since you went away, my daughter's been studying, and she's gotten real good. Maybe you could get her into show business.
I'll talk to you about that later. Now, what was that rate again?
$3 for a single.
There you are.
No company in the rooms. And if you're going to have company, you got to keep this door open.
I'll keep
and
it
don't
open.
forget to turn off
I'll
all those
turn off
lights.
the
And I don't want any rattling on the radiators
Goodbye.
because I can't
My
stand
best
the
to
noise.
your daughter.
I've got 9 people living here.
Goodbye.
This is the silliest thing I've ever heard of.
Stop complaining. We take turns, don't we?
I know, but when you were in the trunk, they didn't throw it off the top of the bus.
Jack, I'm too tired to argue with you. I'd like to take a little sleep before we go to the theater. Will you help me pull down the bed?
Yes.
There we are. There.
Thank heaven somebody came.
Where in the world have you been?
Jack, while I'm taking a nap, you better rehearse the act. This is very important tonight. We're getting $35. 20 for me and 15 for you.
Now, wait a minute, George. There's something I want to talk to you about. I'm just as good in the act as you are now, and we're going to split it right down the middle.
Well, that's gratitude for you. I take you from nowhere. Put you into a great act, now you want to split the money.
Well, that's the only way I'll go on.
I got news for you. I don't need you.
Oh, yes, you do.
Oh, no, I don't. I can do this act with anybody. I can even do it with the landlady's daughter and get as many laughs.
Oh, yeah, that I'd like to see.
All right, you will. Mrs. Landlady.
Landlady's daughter. He'll be begging me to come back. When he does, I'm going to get more than half, believe me. Where's George Burns?
He's on stage there, working with a girl.
With a girl, eh? Must be some act. The landlady's daughter. This I gotta see.
You mean to say your uncle put nails between his teeth and twisted them until they bend? That's quite a trick.
Yeah, but he looked pretty ridiculous walking around with all those bent teeth.
Well, Gracie. It'd come in handy if you happened to get a crooked ear of corn.
Gracie. What a name.
Oh, well, you live and learn.
That's the only...
And then there was my Aunt Gertrude. She was the snake charmer.
Gertrude?
I did that same joke.
Nearsighted?
Uh-huh. She had a little snake, and she was supposed to put it in the basket and then blow on a flute until the snake stuck.
That's my joke, the same joke I did with it.
Happened one Saturday afternoon.
And I was even dressed
Flute in
funny.
the basket and blew on the snake.
Wasn't that awful?
Well, I'll bet it upset her.
Well, no, it wasn't a real snake. It was just a few little worms tied together.
Yeah, well, that's really better. Who else was in the sideshow?
Well, the big hit was my Aunt Clara and Uncle Harvey.
What kind of an act did they do?
Half
If you know of anybody who wants to take violin lessons, here's my card.
We'll be back with the special guest, George Burns, in just a moment. But first...
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all enjoyed the show. Now, whether you believe this story or not, I'm sure that most of you know that George Burns and I have been friends for many, many years. As a matter of fact, he's the closest friend that I have in the whole world. But you've probably also heard about the awful things that he does to me. He can think up some of the dirtiest tricks to do to me. I could tell you 100 of them, but I must tell you one that he did only a couple of weeks ago. You won't believe this, but it's a true story. I hadn't seen him. I hadn't seen George in about 3 months. He was out on tour with a show, and I missed him, you know. Well, anyway, he got back in town, hadn't called me yet, and I was walking down Sunset Boulevard, and suddenly I see him driving down in his car, and he saw me. So he pulled over the curb across the street, you see, and he waved for me to come over. Well, I couldn't wait to see him. And I dashed across the street through all the traffic and everything, and as soon as I got to his car, he rolled up the window and drove away. Now, to show you what kind of a sap I am, that's the 3rd time he's done that to me. George, come on out here, will you? Now, George, tell me, did you enjoy being on the show?
No.
Why not? You got a lot of laughs.
I'm not interested in laughs, Jack. I like to sing.
But this is a comedy show.
That doesn't interest me, Jack. I love to sing.
Well, George, look, as a comedian on my show, I'm certainly willing to pay you. But if you want to sing, you get nothing.
Way down in Africa, every evening in the bamboo trees, some chimpanzees, monkey banjos, nightly would be strumming. They would be humming in its ways, then buzzing.
Good night, folks. Good night, George.
The band was the best.
George, good night. Good night, George.
This big band.
Good night, folks. I'll be seeing you soon.
One night in June, so he wrote a thing, something really told us, the monkey really gave it to the baby.